Hello and welcome back to another EDH deck tech video. Today I'm going to be showing an updated version of my Inalla Archmage Ritualist or Archmage Ritualist deck. My first attempt at Inalla, I don't know if the video is still up, and that was just a generic Paradox Engine deck because I wanted to use her tap ability as a win condition. Paradox Engine decks have taken off in a completely different path, and that tap ability is irrelevant for what those decks are capable of doing. Her other ability here is this Eminence effect, which is the new toy that the most recent Commander set has, where even if this card is in your command zone, you can do something. Inalla's specifically says when a wizard comes into play on my side, I can pay one colorless to make a temporary token of that wizard. It has haste and it goes away, it exiles it in step. Now, Inalla here, by the way, she is a 5 mana 4/5 wizard, being a rather stoutly large-bodied wizard for her mana cost. Inalla screams wizard tribal, and in Commander, EDH, wizards are not very good at attacking. They're not very good at doing a lot of things other than doing some kind of combo win, and that is actually a bit of a problem. When people see Inalla, they immediately think that you're playing a combo deck, and most of the time they're right. There's just not a lot you can do when it comes to turning 2/2s and 1/3s sideways in combat. Also, to add to this, the competitive commander groups, specifically I believe it was the Laboratory Maniacs in conjunction with the Professor? I don't remember who helped. Anyways, they made a video showing different financial investments you can do to create an optimal and highly competitive Inalla deck. While that is great, I love that the competitive scene is getting more attention. I believe they might have missed an opportunity to explain compatibility issues that some groups have. For example, one of my local buddies actually built exactly that, a perfectly highly tuned competitive Inalla EDH deck. It was his one and only EDH deck. So while someone like me, who has 20 plus EDH decks of all varying power level, I can find compatible decks to play with him, some people only have 1 or 2 decks, and they're not all that. So I am all for people being educated of how to make competitive decks, with the asterisk that they are also aware of making sure your deck is compatible with what your opponents are playing. Because if you sit down with a perfectly tuned deck because YouTube told you to, and your opponents have no clue how to deal with that, or their decks are like turn 5 plus and you're playing a turn 3 win deck, or something capable of reanimating Jink attacks is on turn 2, you're not going to have a very good game state. Your environment will collapse in on yourself, people will become unhappy playing with you, and then you will very quickly take your deck apart, which is exactly what happened. My friend no longer has his Inalla deck because people wouldn't play against it. Anyways, again, this is my take on Inalla. My first take was a Paradox Engine deck using the tap ability. That's just not good enough. This take is, of course, a combo deck running the generic Inalla combos that we are all familiar with, plus a different one. And I have specifically done 2 things to dumb this deck down so it is not always an automatic targeted threat. And my friends know I do this, thus making my deck highly inconsistent in some situations. The first thing I did is I don't have reanimation package in here. I'm not doing anything like turn 2 Jink attacks. The second thing I'm doing is I have this deck set up to make all of my basic lands appear to be, or all my lands appear to be basic. There are 28 basic lands, and every non-basic land is designed to get a basic land into play. Thus, my mana is a bit slower, and that just does take a lot of heat off of the known threat that bringing the combo commander to the table has. So, let's start with the combos first. Inalla, her ability, the Eminence ability, can be used to combo with 2 or 3 very specific cards. These are the 3 known ones. Wonderwine Prophets is the one of combo piece. It doesn't take any other parts. With Inalla, we can essentially create a loop of where every time this comes into play, it requires a champion, which we can provide with Inalla. We are actually using the token to attack with. If we have an opponent that cannot block, we can then just take as many turns as they have hit points divided by 4. Alternative to that, if we have a sacrifice effect, something like Ashnod's Altar, we can use Inalla's effect to then use Mistbind Click to tap down all opponents' lands before they can do anything, or we can then make infinite Bloodline Necromancers, using Inalla's effect to create a token that is we are using to reanimate. The token can reanimate the original, which we are sacking to this to create the mana to create the token that will continually make infinite 3/2 attackers. I am also plugging in one of my own favorite wizard combos, well, it's just a red combo, which is Dualcaster Mage. Has nothing to do with Inalla. Inalla can help us, of course, double Dualcaster Mage if we are using this for generic good stuff. But if we have some other target for one of these two spells, we can then Dualcaster the spell to make infinite Dualcasters. Again, this is just a generic. My deck is basically Wizard Tribal, a very high volume of good stuff wizards. So we will usually always have a target for these. Now, of course, this is a bit of a weak point here. This does require 3 red mana, and as I said, my deck runs 28 basic lands, and the non-basics are designed to get basics in play. So getting 3 red mana sources may be the actual challenge here, not actually assembling the combo pieces. Let's go through the rest of the deck, starting with the creatures. Now, one thing Inalla likes doing is basically drawing a bunch of cards. A lot of wizards just draw cards, so using Inalla to get double Champion Wits triggers is fantastic. We can use her to also double up Seagate Oracle. We can use her to give a hasted Finkel to attack with. Shadow Mage Infiltrator is just a good wizard. We have Magus of the Wheel, which we can use Inalla to give haste to a clone of that if we have enough mana to activate on that same turn. Jory N is here just as a filler. She is legendary, which is not a good thing to clone, but this deck does tend to play out a bunch of spells in one turn, so she will just cantrip every now and then. We have Disciple of Bolas, which is fun to play with Inalla as well. For 1 extra mana, we can double Disciple. Thus, for 5 mana, we can use our 2 Disciples to sacrifice themselves, gain 4, draw 4, which is a pretty good effect. Arcanus, again, is a legendary, but we can use Inalla to make a hasted clone. We will get rid of the original at the cost of just drawing 3 cards. Again, if you're playing things like Paradox Engine, that's ideal. Trophy Mage is here to get one of many mana rocks. We have a bunch of 3-drop rocks like Coalition Relic in the deck, and for 1 extra mana, we can get another one. Trinket Mage is here, same thing with Inalla. We can copy this and get like Soul Ring plus Mana Vault or something like that. We have Snapcaster, which is good with Inalla. We have a very high volume of spells in this deck, lots of tutors and a few counter spells and whatever we need. We have Fate Spinner. This is no longer card advantage. This is more of a dirtly piece. This is just a pet favorite card of mine. Nothing to do with Inalla really, because making a clone of this does nothing, but just screwing up the opponent, and it's a generically confusing card. We have Magus the Moon. Again, this is something our deck actually doesn't care about. We're playing 3 colors, but we have all of our lands are designed to be basic. So Magus has no pain on us, but this is just a good card. Thalkos Deceiver is a fun wizard with Shadow. Essentially what this is, for 5 mana, using this plus Inalla, we have a hasted one. We can then go snipe and take someone's creature, permanent theft, and then we have this on the follow-up turn to attack with. Glen Alandra is nice to have a little bit of backup here as the counter magics. Same with Venser. Again, we can Inalla the Venser, get rid of the clone, still have the bounce trigger on the stack. We have Sower, which we can temporarily use Inalla to take away a blocker if we need, but realistically this is here just to take something important. Dire Fleet Ravager. This is a fun one I've been enjoying. I like cloning this, specifically with Rite of Replication, and it's always fun to make people do the math. Now, this is dangerous. This does hit us as well. Each player loses 1/3 of their life. But if you Rite of Replication this, you make everyone lose 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. This is just one of my favorite troll cards to play with Inalla. Not exactly the best. Giving them haste is a good thing if you can somehow, since the Menace is good on the 4/4. This deck doesn't have a way of granting mass haste, but right click on this, everyone drops to very low life total. And of course we have the Click. This is good again if we have a sack outlet like the Ashnod's Altar, but this is a generically good wizard to help reanimate some stuff. Let's go through the spells here. Now there's a pretty high volume of these. These are all instants and sorceries, not broken down to anything specific order. But we have a few tutors. Again, this is to maybe get a twin flame or whatever combo piece we need, or a protection spell. We have a vampiric tutor and demonic tutor to help assemble whatever parts we need. And then we have a bunch of draw to go with all those creatures. We have a windfall and a factor fiction and a recurring insight. Time spiral is good at helping reset. We can untap our lands and continue off. This is a good gamble. If we've dumped out a lot of mana and we have maybe half of a combo sitting in play, we can chance getting the other half or a tutor to get it. We have a stroke for some big draw at end of turn. Right to go with any of our good creatures like the pirate. Reanimate is a one of, basically just to return whatever important card we milled away or something that's died. If we want to rebuy some enter the battlefield trigger with Inalla or whatever. Yogg-Will is what you would expect to see in a Black X combo deck. This helps rebuy any combo piece that may have been destroyed. We have Buy Force as a single red spell to help remove artifacts. When it comes to combo decks that run red, sometimes it's hard to find excuses to run red cards, but Artifact Destruction is a perfectly good excuse. We have Denial and Counterspell for a little bit of stack play, and we have Reality Shift, Unsubstantiate, Cyclonic Rift, Washout, which is good at helping rebuy some wizards if we have to, Damnation, and Decree of Pain for answers to the board. Again, our board tends to get cluttered up. We like playing wizards, but wizards are very small. They're not good at defending you, and you are going to get ran over very quickly by any kind of green deck. So we do have to have a high volume of answers to bigger and better creatures. Next, let's go through a few other non-land permanents. Treachery is just a very good card. Any kind of blue X deck in EDH would likely want to play this. And most of my decks run a singleton Planeswalker. I am still playing this one in this specific deck. I opened this, and that's just been a pet favorite card here. This could be any of the Grixis or fewer colored Planeswalkers. This is just a good answer. Inalla can put out a lot of blockers. Like we have a bunch of tiny little wizards to block and protect him with. And he does give us the ability to cast extra cards or whatever. We have a top for generic good stuff and a Cloudstone Curio. Of course, this is in Russian. What this says is if a non-artifact or enter play on my side, I may bounce another of that card type. For example, if I have a wizard come into play and I make a clone with Inalla, I can use the clone to bounce the original that just came into play back to my hand. There are a few ways to get this really broken. Again, this is a leftover when I was playing Paradox Engine and I was trying to do infinite wizard entry triggers. And that was a win more. But this is just generically good with Inalla, because for one extra mana using Inalla's ability, you're bouncing your wizard to your hand and getting whatever enter the battlefield trigger you want. Of course, this can be used to save like an enchantment or a land or whatever, just not artifacts. And let's go through the artifacts. Now, as I said, this is the mana base on this deck is whimsical, so we have actually 13 mana rocks to help correct the lands, the colors. Mana Crypt does not, but Wayfarer's Bauble does. We have a Soul Ring, Mana Vault, and 3 Signets, all 3 of the main colors you would expect. These are the best mana rocks we have. We have the 3 Diamonds, which are our personal pet favorites. And we have a few 3-drops. Again, this is for the Trophy Mage to grab. The Lantern here immediately fixes the fact that we are playing 28 basic lands, but we also have a Coalition Relic and a Gilded Lotus, essentially giving us any of the colors we need to play our deck. And finally, let's go through those lands. So there's 37 lands total, and all the non-basics are designed to get basic lands. Now, I do this for a few reasons. Number one, it's lowering the power level of the deck because my lands are a little irregular, but also it's a vanity thing. Every land that I have in play that's going to tap for mana, it's going to be a basic land, and that actually looks good when you're playing 3-color deck. Like, it just is an aesthetic thing. So that may not be for everybody. That's just something I'm doing here. So these are all basically designed to get these basic lands. I'm still running these original Ravnica DCI promo lands. We have 8 mountains, we have 10 swamps, and we have 10 islands. Well, yeah, just having all of these be in play as our lands is a beautiful thing. Now, this is, again, my Inalla deck. There's a lot of ways you can take Inalla. The issue, although, is most of the win conditions are going to be the same. It's almost always going to have a Wonderwine Prophets in the deck. It's very hard to play this or build this without a combo win being the way that you win with a deck. And again, I love that people are being educated about competitive EDH. That's great. I just always want to add that little asterisk there that if you are getting into EDH, it would be ideal to talk to your playgroup first, get an idea of the strength of the decks that they are playing, because you want to be compatible with them. Now, progressively, you can all become better players by slowly becoming or building better and stronger and faster decks. Not everyone wants to do that, so again, that's communication is key. But yeah, I can go on rants about competitive and pairing and whatnot like that for an extended period of time. I won't. But this is my current Inalla build. I, of course, if you noticed, all the Ultra Pro dots are... Oh, these don't have the dots. I'm actually running the Inalla sleeves. But since these sleeves are not exactly the highest of quality, I have them triple sleeved, so there's a sleeve that goes over these right here. I have the box that goes with this too somewhere. But yeah, any ideas or opinions on Inalla, give me a shout out. Thanks.